Hey everyone, this is Tracy with Color Me This. We are continuing on today in Magical Worlds for the Daily Color, special edition because I can't stay away from the book. I am using, for the first time ever in a coloring book, my Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils, which are the first colored pencils I ever bought. So we are continuing on with the second image, but before we move on to that, I want to share with you the turtle page because I found my mom's sticky note, and it is not turtles are cool, I think is what I thought she said. That is not what she said. So here's the turtle I am putting back, and because I already told you the long details about our community and how we all feel about turtles and tortoises, it's all about the turtles is what she wrote. Now we're going to go to our current page. Here is yesterday's image that I colored. This paper is fantastic for water. I don't see any damage, any rippling. I maybe feel a teeny tiny bit. I did work the water pretty well, tried to keep it dry. But as you saw, if you haven't watched it, you should go back and watch. I have not painted in watercolor in years, but I did in my past paint a lot of watercolor. So I call it a patting, P-A-T-T-I-N-G technique, where if I get some lines, I create sort of a fluffy look is the term I use. And it makes a nice, varied, soft effect, and I did that a lot in the background where I did not want any lines. So that means that I did reapply wet over and over and over from my brush. So yesterday's brush was the aqua painter that I have had in the trailer all these years. Today I grabbed something totally different for my wet application. I have a very inexpensive set of a very delicate, two of them are out, but they are very small. It's a brush value pack for Royal Langnickel is a very common art supply, and I bought these at Walmart. And the ideal use for these all media brushes says decorative strokes and long lines and details. The reason why they talk about long lines is that one of these brushes is super long, and I will not be using that today. But if you wanted to do any flourishing, and if you were good at that kind of thing, I'm not good at that kind of thing. So I have two brushes. One is flat, very small, but with an angle. And then one is just a normal, thin, it's not even a very good quality one. I see some stray strands there. We're just going to see how I get along with them. And then I bought my frisket that I've given a demo of. I can't remember, it's called Pabio. And it is a liquid frisket that works really well with my rolling pen. And with that, I got it from the local thrift store, the SPCA for pets. And I think I paid $2 for this little box that had the frisket and these two brushes. This brush and then a wider fat brush that I will not, or wider flat, but they're really short. They have no brand name. So I'm going to use this one today, the smaller of the two. So those are my brushes. I've grabbed just a couple of different colors. I will be working on this fine snail, and we're just going to see what we can do. It was super fun yesterday, by the way. Somewhat being naughty, actually doing a different book. To make yesterday even more special, all of my coloring books, I have finally collected them all into one place. I made myself, before I went to bed, I did two items in my craft room. So every day I'm trying to do a little bit because I've got lots of big bins full of stuff from having everything hauled from my old home state in Washington to my new home state that I've actually been in. I've lived here for 3 years, since August of 2021. So last night, to finish my wonderful fun day in this book and coloring with watercolor pencils that I haven't touched in years, I put all of my books up in my storage spot, so I will have to be videoing that very soon. So let's just get to it. I'm grabbing the first color I have, which I grabbed for the snail's body. It's yesterday I actually had this same coral in the polychromos, and it is still sitting here. And I am going to follow Joanna's lead where she has these little dots. And those dots are telling me that this is where they're supposed to be shading. So that is where I'm adding the shading. Again, I will be taking, this will be water applied. This is a watercolor pencil. As I was practicing a little bit yesterday after I did the frog, I made the mistake of I have the polychromos rotated to the far side of my Lazy Susan, but somehow it got turned, and I had grabbed this pencil. So I was playing with this, and I could not for the life of me figure out why, when I added water to it, it was not breaking down. It was not water soluble, and then I went, oh my goodness. So as a guidance, a tip, be sure to double check which shape of pencil you're using if you're mixing your polys and your watercolor Albrecht Durers. These both are the same color, and the differences are silver band, silver lettering is watercolor. Hexagonal shape, which you can feel when you hold it in your hand. So just kind of do a little double check to yourself and make sure if you do want to apply water to it that you have the correct pencil, because the barrel is not really going to be very obvious to you. The polychromos is gold and the Albrecht Durer are silver. So I learned that yesterday. I had the right idea by keeping them separate on the Lazy Susan, but I didn't make sure where I picked up the pencil from was the right area, and I did not double check the pencil shape in my hand. So this is going to be the snail body. Yesterday it was the mushroom body. This is Red Violet 194. So I have picked a more, this is more purple. I've picked a pinkier color for the mushrooms today. Thank you everybody for joining, and welcome back if you are returning. My coloring journey here on YouTube is basically getting me to color every single day, almost every day. So I do a daily coloring. That's what we're doing right now. So I color every afternoon. Hub is off taking a nap. He's actually, there's one wall separating us. And I am right now, normally I'm in the living room in our recliner, but we moved our recliners down to my crafting area, which is a very large, like a long rectangular space in the back of the house. I think they technically call these a Florida room, but ours has been completely finished and sheet-walled with, it has plexiglass windows instead of screens. So that is where I've been coloring. I really enjoy it. I would love it even more if I could have my curtain open, but the sun, it's a little after 3:30 in the afternoon, so the sun starts shining on my paper, and it makes it difficult for the camera to stay focused, and it's very distracting. So I have to have the curtains closed. I do have the other curtain open so I can see out that angle. So that is what I do. I enjoy coloring with everybody a little bit every day. I color in real time. I don't use music. I don't speed it up. I'm not really fond of filming that style. So I try to do most of my videos in real time though. And I try not to swatch too much. I did at the beginning, but I figure swatching is not all that interesting. The thing that is interesting for the people who do those is that you get to see the colors as they lay down, even if you're seeing them quickly, and that is helpful in making a purchasing decision. All right, so we have a snail. My goal is to do 2 images today. I have not touched the third image. The third image is, if you can see part of it, if I move it over a little bit, it's a frog on lily pads. So I think I'll have the colors. I won't have to pull any additional colors. I am just excited to break out the brushes. I have 2 choices. I'm interested in this flat one, and I'm interested in this bushier one, and I think I am going to try the longer one that's this flat one, and let's see how I do with that. Because it's been so many years since I've done this, it is kind of an experiment, a bit of an adventure. I'm zooming you in a little bit more. So I was very excited to finish 2 tasks in my craft room. I will be able to video before I am completely done. Okay, so I am following the snail's shape, but what I really want to do, I have my little wad of paper towel, and so I do want to do a little bit of the wash between the 2, so that this middle area, though, I do want it to be like a highlight area. I do want some of the color to go toward the middle. So I'm just doing a bit of my dabbing with this fairly dry brush. I am hoping to encourage a little bit of water, and then right here I see a line and I want to soften it, so that's where I'm dabbing. I am not sure if there is a correct way or incorrect way to manipulate watercolor. These are just things that, because they're coming to me today and it's been so many years, I probably used this technique in the past. So now I'm seeing that I've got it a little bit dark. I am now wetting my brush. I'm going to dab right in the middle here. And my goal is to treat this water application somewhat like an eraser and lighten up the middle. And that is what is happening. It will also dry a little bit lighter as well. So this is what I am calling a subtraction technique. And I do need to be careful because this could potentially ripple my paper and make it difficult to work with on the other side. So now I'm going to the second rung of the shell, and I'm just wetting the dry pigment. And then I'm going to be doing some softening. That's pretty dark. So I'm softening the lines. You'll see that I'm not going heavy with the water. I actually like this swirl better than my first swirl. Now I'm going to grab the second swirl here and start. My brush is pretty dry and I'm okay because I don't want to overdo it. Oh, let's see if we've softened there. See, I like that. where I'm getting rid of that harsh line. It is all nice and soft. It isn't perfect, but it's also not bad. All right, so there's the snail. Now, if I want this a tiny bit darker, which I think I do, I want to get some shadow lines here where the shell would be going into the groove, and that might be best done with a smaller brush. So I'm going to take this brush, rinse it off, grab my smaller brush, get it a little wet, and I am going to, because we're still wet, what I just did is still somewhat damp, so I'm going to do the tip to brush tip technique, and I'm going to go in with some dark that my angle is reflecting, so there I had to move. Now before it dries, I'm going to take my paper towel, pick up some of the wet. Now the nice thing is this is going to dry, but I can still manipulate it with more water if I want. It's not like, it doesn't behave like a dye marker. I actually dislike water-based markers. I feel like they make too many streaks. Now what I need to do is soften the edges. So I do have a lot of patience. I'm very slow. Oh, see, I saw it. Look at how nice that's softening. It's helpful, I think, if you are, because this is not like paint that's going to dry and you can't rework it. Like the next thing I want to do for row 2 on this page is Inktense, which I've never used. It is India ink and it dries permanent. That will be interesting because I'm used to being able to re-manipulate as much as I want, and that is not how the Inktense is going to work. Okay, so I'm just going in here. Love this tiny brush. I love that I can really get precise dark lines by doing my tip to tip. You all might be thinking I'm a little crazy going, I am not going to work that hard. Huh, there we go. I have just the little inner swirl, and then we will move on. I have enjoyed reading comments from everybody about me coloring in the book, period, because remember that my setup is that I color in Small Victories and I color in Romantic Country, which I do need to get for you guys 3 pencil set choices, because after I have a play with this, we will move on back to our normal programming, so to speak. But I believe I'm going to be coloring in this book ongoing once or twice a week. So it will slow down the rate that I finish Small Victories, which that is a goal of mine. But I'm also very excited to be working in a new book. So since I've entered the coloring world fairly recently, I feel very much late to the party. Okay, now I have not touched the snail's body that I colored with coral. This should go really fast. I'm just gonna spread around some of this lovely peachy pink. I see the wet, so I'm gonna pick it up. part of why I am picking up the wet is so that I do not buckle my paper. We're just going to leave that nice and light for now. I can always come back in and add more. Here, I'm going to do one little thing. The other technique is that I have damp paper, and I can choose to just slide this pigment directly over the damp paper, and I end up with a lovely deep color. I actually plan to use this technique on the leaves. And if for some reason I don't want that bright, harsh line, I can take this very soft, dry little brush and tap it out. Just like that. When you take the tip to a damp surface, you're getting like pure pigment. It's the deepest color you're going to be able to get. So next, I want to switch gears to the leaf. I am going to try a new fun thing because this is probably the largest surface on this image that I get to work on, and I'm going with 3 leaf colors. I am going ahead, I'm not changing any of the colors, but I am going to incorporate Earth Green Yellowish 168, difficult to read, Dark Phthalo Green 284, 264, I think that's 64, and Deep Cobalt Green 158. I've got all 3 in my hand. I'm going to start with the darkest color, where we have our shaded lines, which is our prompt to add the dark color and have shadows. I was thinking of being a rebel and not doing the real colors, but I chickened out because clearly I'm doing somewhat realistic colors. But I will tell you that I got a package today, and I'm very excited about it, just like I've been excited about organizing my craft space with my new to me in the last 8 years items that I've had forever. My neon and metallic pencils came from Temu. I bought the Brutfuner Fluorescent is what they're called, and I noticed they had a bunch available the week that I bought them. At a, the price points were, I think I paid $8.35. They're very inexpensive, and they're all gone. I didn't see any. Somebody was asking me where I bought them from, and I was confirming and had to post that they are out of stock right now. All right, so there's the darkest color, switching to that middle color, which is dark phthalo green. So I'm gonna have to do a quick unboxing. I just told you I didn't like to do swatching on video because I think it's very time consuming. And I already video every day. But we'll see how excited I am about the neons. Might get started and decide I want to finish. Okay, that was the middle tone, and here is my lightest, Earth Green Yellowish. And I'm hoping for some lovely wash blending of these 3 colors. It's a really pretty color combination. I like it. Alright, so I also did this in the lightest green. So I'm going to set all but the darkest down because I might need to come back in And then I am going to grab the middle-sized brush, this flat one. I'm going to get it wet. I already have my paper towel in my hand ready to dab. And I'm going to start with the darkest. I don't want the dark to overwhelm the light, so now I'm going to take the lightest side and blend it back. And then I'm going to dab off the water. Looking for an interesting wash effect is what I'm going after. Very nice. And I see I will have to come back in with the dark. I might be able to do the tip to the wet surface. They were not looking overly wet right now. I have much more control today with these delicate brushes. Nice. Okay, now I'm going to attempt. We'll see if I like it. Oh, getting quiet, focused. And I think I'm going to leave that. And what I could do see if we can. My brush is very lightly damp, but not wet. All right, rinsing that off because I just want to take the tip and get some wet on the olive that I put on the middle. It's very wet looking, so I'm going to dab it off. I'm going to look for the, there's the olive, which is earth green yellowish. Okay. I am next moving on to the dark green, which I used on the other leaf. It's a dark olive. It is called Chromium Green Opaque 174. I'll need to get the small brush for this. So this paper does do a great job with wet. Thus far, I'm going to grab the thinnest brush, wet it a little bit, dab it off on my paper towel. This feels completely different than coloring with pencil. A very nice change. Let's make sure we're staying focused. All done? Green down, moving right along. Taking my small brush, rinsing it off. I've got the blue. I had this out yesterday and I ended up not using it. I was going to mix it in with the sky. It is called Phthalo Blue 110, but it is very turquoisey. Not even turquoisey. Dark, deep sky, but not night sky. So I did not use it yesterday since we have night sky, and the Indanthrene blue worked really well. So you can see how vibrant this is. All right. I do want to dab this and come back. I want that wash look, so I will have to come back in and darken the top of the bells. All right, not bad, but I do want to do a quick tip application at the very top here. Now the water is already wet, so I will get some movement. Not too much, actually. Each bell has a differing amount of wet on it. I'm thinking I'm going to pick up a little bit on that. I think that is as bright as I'm going to get it. So that is very wet. I'm going to leave that to dry. Moving on to the brighter berry color, I grabbed middle purple pink. See, so I am using way less pencils, I will say, because I'm getting the light to dark with the wash of the water on the pigment, moving the pigment around. I don't have to have as many pencils. This is just a more pinky version of the red violet on the snail's body. I actually would have liked this color on the mushroom yesterday. But it'll work. It still works. While I'm at it here, I am going to go ahead and take the yellow, same yellow I used on the stars yesterday, dark Naples ochre. I am not going to do the spots yet. I'm going to use this small brush, but first I don't want it as wet, so I am just wiping it on my paper towel. I'm going to dab a little bit because I want the wash, make sure it doesn't come out too dark for me, and that is perfect. I am using a very light hand. I could go a little darker at the top. Using the patting and the wet that's already there. Moving on to the next mushroom. Third mushroom. And the little baby mushroom. I'm gonna darken the top of that one. Okay, cleaning that off. I don't even know if I need to do any wet on these stars. I have the coral right here for the spots. The mushroom is wet, but I'm gonna still go for it. I'm okay if, since this is such a light color, if it gets dark because of the wet from the darker pink color, I'm okay with that. Okay, so this bottom area is, that's very wet, so I am wiping it on my paper towel. I don't want it super saturated. All right, those are done. Now we just have the sky. Sky is going to be done the same way as yesterday. Indanthrene blue. We do have some wet areas. That I want to be careful of. The snail is going to be completely dry. I am going to make sure all these, each nook and cranny, so right here, and right here is where I want to focus the darks. I also want darker at the base of these two mushrooms. Darkest in right nook, in the nook here of the leaves. And then I will let the wash of the rest, when as I pull away from the snail, it will fade, and that's okay. And then I do want the, in between these, the foliage, sprigs, also to be darker. Now this, so the circle is not complete. And I get to decide if I want to stop the blue right along the line and not go out on the other side of that sprig. I will wait to decide until I see what it looks like not going on the other side of the midpoint of the sprig. I do want there's some blue all along here. I do like that I can be kind of sloppy. I'm gonna put some around the snail's antenna. And around the snail's body, and then we will get to work. Using the bigger brush, which is still this little guy, I'm gonna get it wet. I was gonna hold the indenthrine, but I think I want my paper towel ready. I'm going to wipe off the excess, and we will just get to work. I am going for no streaky lines, which kind of means, I guess the term is scrumbling. When you do your ovals, I'm sort of scrumbling, but I was using the term patting, kind of just mushing around the water. So I let this is already a little bit dry, but I can soften it. That is the joy of watercolor. If this was a dye marker applied ink, you could not soften it and eliminate it. I am going to go ahead and do that. Still softening. Got to be careful of pilling. I think I might see some pilling. And that is the danger of too much patting and scrumbling and moving around. And this brush could be rougher than yesterday's brush, because I did not see any pilling yesterday. What I have not done with yesterday's image and today's is leave anything white. I feel like this brush might be on the dry side. Let's see if I feel I need to wet it. It's amazing how far water will stretch. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit more. I'm going to wipe it on my paper towel because I have some softening to do here. I think I need to add more pigment by the mushroom. We'll just see. Yeah, see, I don't have a lot of pigment over here under the mushroom to pull around to the top. So I will be adding a little bit more. And then I also want to darken very close to the snail. Other than that, it's going really well. Okay, so we're not going to the other side of the line. Let's just see if I can hold myself to that goal. I have a need for coloring in a little bit of the blue right up here. I don't need a ton. Let's see if that's enough. I have no idea how much time has passed. Completely engrossed in what I am doing. Very, very fun. All right, let's do some careful placement here. I almost want my littler brush now. See how the brush is too fat for my spaces. So rinsing this off, grabbing the little one, it's a little too wet, wiping it off on the paper towel. All right. I said I wanted a little bit by the snail, didn't I? I see a little bit of a line right there. See how quickly it just like melted that line away. Okay, the only thing I see I have to soften that line right there. Soften this line a little bit more here. And a little line in this area. I think I'm done. Where are we at? We are done. I get to do, tomorrow, I will do the third frog. And we will be finished with, oh, I'm not done. Look at that. I hope to, I think I'm out of disk space on my camera, so hopefully I have just enough left for the underbelly here of the leaf. And I'm going to grab a little bit on the tip. From the tip of the indanthrene blue. And we will call this one done. I hope you're enjoying this this coloring using new pencils for me in a coloring book. It's very fun. So do all the YouTube things, like, share, comment, consider subscribing. And tomorrow we're going to finish it off. We have the frog from yesterday, a snail today, and a frog tomorrow. Hope to see you all there.